Well, hello and welcome to a special edition of the City Update. I'm your host, Mark Aron, Multimedia Design Manager for the City of Danville. Today we are sitting down with our Interim Director of Danville Utilities, Jason Grey, to discuss some issues that have surfaced over the last couple of months coming out of the Danville Utilities Commission meetings when it comes to our electric service here in our community. You've probably seen the headlines over the last couple of weeks. Over the next 4 or 5 months, the Utility Commission has decided to do an evaluation of our electric service here in our community to make sure that in the long term we are providing quality service to our community at the right price. And there's a lot of different options that are going to be weighed during the next 4 or 5 months during the study of our electric service. So on today's show, I thought we would spend a little time with our interim director to discuss these options, the strategic plan that will be rolled out after the commission and council members discuss this, and really what it entails for the electric service here in our community. So I want to welcome Jason Grey to the program today. Jason, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having me.
And as I mentioned, we'll touch on this strategic plan a little later in the show, but I did want to talk about this evaluation of the electric service and kind of what led to this decision. I think it kind of dates back to the August meeting of the Danville Utility Commission when industrial customer came and spoke. But tell me a little bit about what led to looking into our electrical service here in the city of Danville.
It does date back to the August Utility Commission, and what really led up to the commission looking at this strategic plan and study was the increase in rates that we've had to occur over the past few months. The July rate increase that we had, and several industrial customers came to the August meeting with a representative from the Virginia Manufacturers Association, and he made a presentation about what other industrial customers are paying other places.
Okay.
And he asked the commission to look at other options of what the utility could do to help lower cost or be more competitive to our neighboring utilities.
Okay, and it's no secret, we are very competitive when it comes to residential rates across the state of Virginia, but when it comes to the industrial side, we are higher compared to some. Can you explain a little bit about the difference? How are we competitive on the residential side and maybe not so competitive in the industrial side? What factors into that?
It costs more equipment, more distribution cables, equipment, transformers to provide more megawatts of service to those customers than it does residential customers.
Okay.
So the industrial customers receive a demand charge that residential customers do not see. Okay,
so we're talking demand charge. That's basically the infrastructure and everything it takes to supply that power to these industrial customers.
That's correct.
Okay, and some of our bigger industrial manufacturers here in our community, we do not provide power to, right? Like Goodyear is provided by AEP.
There are certain areas in Danville that are served by AEP. Dan River was one of them.
Okay.
And when the Schoolfield area is redeveloped, they will also be served by AEP, whatever is located in the Schoolfield area.
Okay.
But yeah, you're correct. Goodyear has always been a AEP customer. Blue Ridge Fiberboard, right behind Goodyear, is an AEP customer, partial AEP customer. Corning was at one time as well.
So is that just based on their location in the city of Danville, that AEP had lines close to their facility, they chose AEP, or why do they have AEP versus Danville Utilities?
Location in proximity to their lines, and they were able to provide their own infrastructure to meet AEP services.
Because that plays a major factor in having that infrastructure, because with certain industrial customers here in the community, we provide that infrastructure, whether it be transformers or whatever it may be. We provide that, and that's a real plus for being on Danville Utilities versus having an AEP or another
We
provider,
provide
right?
the equipment to our customers.
Yeah.
We're also looking to AEP to serve any customer in our mega park.
Okay.
So we're not looking for our ratepayers to cover any of the build-out costs into the mega park. AEP already has a transmission line there. They're looking at expanding that transmission line. So AEP would be the provider there as well.
Okay. So just wanted to let our viewers know, as we talk about this, AEP does provide power to certain industrial clients here in our community. So out of that meeting in August, the Utility Commission meeting, obviously, as we mentioned, some companies did come and representatives talking about what could be done to lower that industrial rate here in our community, and especially and be competitive in the long term. So that really got the discussion rolling. And then I guess came out of that were some different options on what you could do to get those rates where they needed to be. And one of those was selling the electric utility. And I think that's the one that's kind of garnered the biggest headlines
It has.
over the last couple of weeks. But as we talk about this strategic plan, obviously that's one option that this group will be looking at. When we talk about this group, I want you to tell me who's making up this group and a kind of a timetable of when their findings will be presented to City Council, and talk about some of the options that they'll be looking at.
Well, the options are to be discussed. There are several options that could be explored. One that made headlines was the ultimate sale of the utility, and that will be looked at during this process. But there'll be 3 councilmen and 3 utility commissioners involved in this process, and I think they're still being finalized on who's going to be the representatives for each one.
Right. Okay.
But this process will last approximately 5 months and last up until February, in which council will then review the plan and the options that were drawn up during this process.
And I know that they will be meeting at least twice a month. It will be open to the public.
That's right.
And we are in talks of maybe airing some of those meetings on, not all, on River City TV. So you'll be able to follow that closely, and obviously you'll have the opportunity to attend those meetings in person at City Hall in a room to be determined, but it will be located, I think, in City Hall, but we'll be open to the public.
We're looking at the first and third Mondays of every month, but we'll look for more information as those times get closer. We'll advertise and make sure the public is well aware of those.
Yeah, we'll have all that information right here for you on River City TV as that committee begins to meet. And just backtrack, most people might understand this, but some may not. The Utility Commission, its role, its members are appointed by council. I know the city manager sits on the commission. Can you kind of give me an overview of that commission and its role here in the community for some of our viewers who may not be familiar with that committee?
Those commissioners are appointed by City Council.
Okay.
There's one representative from the Pittsylvania County, and the rest are city residents.
Okay.
And there's one representative from City Council. Currently it's Fred Shanks, and the city manager is on that commission as well.
All right.
Their job is to make recommendations relating to utility matters to City Council.
Okay. They do not set the rates.
They do not set the rates. That is City Council's role. Right.
Okay. And when we're talking about rates, I know at the last meeting, which was in September, you heard from a consultant, I guess, on the biennial rate study. You are looking into that, as we mentioned. Being biannual, it's time again to look at those rates, and tell me about that process and when we will hear something from that.
Utility Financial Solutions came in and gave our commission as well as City Council orientation about the rate study and in preparation for November's findings. And basically what she wanted to, what her message was to express her need to keep the utility healthy.
Okay.
Whether it's increasing rates or keeping rates the same, but her job is to keep the utility, make recommendations to keep the utility financially healthy. Okay. And making recommendations and doing so. So
you mentioned a November date. That's when those findings will come to the commission, before the commission, and be passed on to council?
They will be discussed at the November
Okay.
Utility Commission meeting, which is the fourth Monday of November.
Okay, very good. Well, Jason, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back from break, I want to talk a little about what drives the price of electricity. We don't want to go too deep in the woods talking about it, but maybe a 30,000-foot explanation would be good for our viewers, so they'll better understand why we are where we are now. As we mentioned, we are competitive with our residential rates, but on the industrial side, a little higher than some here in the state of Virginia, which has prompted this study, this plan that will be formed on what we can do in the long term to be competitive here in the city of Danville when it comes to the electric side. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back from break, we'll touch on that and a whole lot more.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Well, welcome back to this special edition of the City Update. I'm your host, Mark Aron, Multimedia Design Manager for the City of Danville. Joining me this week, the Interim Director for Danville Utilities, Jason Grey, and we're discussing an evaluation of Danville Utilities electric service. As we touched in the first half of the show, this topic of discussion started back in the August meeting of the Danville Utility Commission, when some industrial customers presented some information to the Utility Commission on rates when it comes to those industrial rates here in our community being higher. And what could the utility do to stabilize those rates or keep those competitive in the long term? So that got the discussion going with the Commission on what we can do in the long term to keep those rates competitive. And out of that, we're going to form a strategic plan on what can be done to do just that. 3 Utility Commission members, along with 3 members of Danville City Council, will be meeting on the 1st and 3rd, Mondays, from October until February to discuss this issue. These meetings will be open to the public. They will be held in City Hall. We're actually in talks now to air a couple of these meetings on River City TV, not all of them, but some of them on River City TV. So you'll be able to follow the process. And basically what we hope to come out of this will be a strategic plan when it comes to what to do with the electric service. And as many of you are aware, and as we touched on with Jason in the first half of the show, selling of the electric utility did come out of that. That is one option, but there are going to be other options that will be discussed through those meetings. So you definitely want to stay up on those, and we'll provide you with all the information that we can when it comes to those meetings right here on River City TV. But Jason, in the second half of the show, you touched on this a little earlier about industrial rates versus residential rates, and there's a demand charge for industrial rates which causes those to go up, and that's kind of basically covers your infrastructure and providing that power to those industrial customers who use quite a lot more than just your residential customers. But when you talk about the price of electricity, I know we've touched on this a lot on this show with you and previous directors, but it's really a volatile market out there, and that's what we're trying to get away from, and producing our own power. And I guess we joined into a partnership with AMP Ohio. It's been how many years now that we formed that partnership?
We joined American Municipal Power in 2007.
2007, okay.
And we've invested in several generation projects that are meeting our base load power, which is basically our everyday power generation.
Right. And when you say investing in these power generation plants, we do not generate our own power, very little. With the Pinnacles Hydro plant, less than what, how many percent?
Couple percent.
Couple percent of of the energy that we use on a daily basis. So we have to purchase that energy on the open market, and to get away from that, we have bought into these plants through AMP Ohio. And tell me, but there's 3 different plants that we are currently invested in, right?
That's correct. We're invested in Prairie State, which is a coal plant in southern Illinois, approximately 50 megawatts into that plant. We're invested into Fremont in northwest Ohio. It's a natural gas plant.
Okay.
And soon we have a group of hydro plants along the Ohio River that will be coming online next year that will provide us green energy, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But will allow us to meet our base load through all our AMP projects.
Because right now we have to enter into contracts, right, with different.
We have to buy power off the market that we don't meet with our current AMP projects.
And that contract could be for how many? I mean, 4 or 5 years.
That's
is that what enter into a contract, and you never know what that market's going to do. So when with the AMP being investors in these different projects, hopefully that's going to stabilize and that it'll keep our rates stable, and we'll kind of be able to adjust that and keep our rates competitive.
It'll help us watch our prices and keep an eye on how the plants are run and help us provide our customers with a more stable energy charge.
And I think the most important thing Jason mentioned is that will cover our base load of energy that we use here in the city of Danville, our whole territory actually, because we don't cover just the city of Danville, Pittsylvania County, and parts of Henry County when it comes to the electric side.
We have a 500 square mile service territory that is, Danville's just 60 square miles.
Right.
Most of it's in Pittsylvania County and touches Henry and Halifax County.
So that will be great to have to cover that base load. Now, there still will be issues when it comes to being invested in these. There's always going to be a chance for demand to go up, right?
When we go above that base load, which is called peaking,
Yeah.
and that we're usually a summer peaker.
Okay.
When we have really hot days, this year we were a winter peaker. We peaked on January 30th of this year. But it's a very odd year, but we peaked at 230 megawatts. But when you go above your base load, you're purchasing off the market and you're purchasing at market rates. So we're looking at projects that we can bring that will make our prices stable here.
Okay.
And if we can bring any generation to our territory off the transmission grid, it will stabilize prices and lower prices for Danville customers.
So we've invested in those 3 projects. Are there any projects that are in negotiations or in talks now that would be located closer to the city of Danville?
We are working on several projects that could hopefully be what they call behind the meter.
Okay.
Off the northeast grid, which is the grid that we're associated with.
Okay.
And we would not incur the congestion charges that hit us so hard in January from the cold temperatures.
And I think that's when the last time we had you on the show, we were talking about those congestion charges, and that affects that base rate as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's a great explanation. It kind of gives our viewers a good indication of the price of electricity, how we purchase this, and how we're kind of decreasing our dependency on that wholesale market, hopefully by purchasing these different plants. And it's great to hear that talks are occurring now to get some closer to home.
That's right.
That'll be great. So seems like the future is bright. So Jason, as we look towards the future with this strategic plan that will be in place, I guess, as of February 2015 after council and the commission meets, as we mentioned in the first half of the show, they're going to be looking at quite a few things. Can you just recap that, what they'll be looking at, the different options that they'll be looking to keep, I guess, rates competitive on the industrial side as we move forward?
We'll be looking at the industrial customers heavily, how competitive we are to, say, the investor-owned utilities, how can we better serve them, what ideas can we do, can we provide them in order to help them with their costs.
Okay, very good. And then we also touched on the biennial rate study. So we obviously look at our rates closely, and if adjustments are needed, they will be sent towards the commission on their November meeting. Is
That's
that right?
right. And the rate study will also provide hopefully some more complex rates that will provide hopefully the industrial customers more capabilities to provide better rates for them to expand out.
Okay, very good. Well, Jason, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and join us today to talk a little bit more about this evaluation of our electric service. and the electric utility here within Danville Utilities. As we did mention, 3 members of Danville City Council, along with 3 members of the Danville Utility Commission, will be doing an evaluation of the electric utility here in the city of Danville. They will begin that evaluation starting in October. They will meet the first and third Mondays of every month at City Hall. Those meetings will be open to the public, and we hope to be airing some of those meetings here on River City TV. So as soon as we get a definitive time and location for those meetings, we'll be posting all those on our bulletin board, so you'll be able to come and to those meetings in public, or maybe watch some of those right here on River City TV. And they hope to have a strategic plan in place, long-term plan by the end of February. That's correct, Jason? And I'm sure they'll report that back to the commission, to the entire utility commission, and take that forward and adopt it through Danville City Council.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, Jason, again, thanks so much for joining us today, and we look forward to having you back on soon to discuss some more issues with Danville Utilities.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you at home for watching. Until next week, have a great day.